Hi, everyone. Welcome to Arthritis at Home. My name is Cheryl Koehn. I am the president of Arthritis Consumer Experts. We host this program that appears weekly in your inbox and online every Thursday. And I'm a person living with rheumatoid arthritis. Everything we do at Arthritis Consumer Experts, or ACE, is by, for, and with people living with some form of arthritis. And I couldn't be more pleased, honored, thrilled to sit here today in our studio with Carrie Barnes. So welcome to the studio, Carrie. You're becoming a frequent flyer. We love that. And we're here to talk to you today about RA treatment decision making, a subject near and dear to our hearts as people living with the disease. Before we dive in, I'm going to just share a little bit about you with our audience. Carrie Barnes is, by her own description, an active adventure-seeking mother of two who lives in Ontario. She and her husband enjoy many long-distance hikes, spending time outdoors and with friends and family. If she's not out on a run or doing some active pursuit, you might find her trying a new recipe for her family, or elbows deep, as she says, in one of her many gardens. Carrie is also blogs, writes wonderful uh, series of articles under her blog called Joint Journeys, A Life with Arthritis by Carrie. That is something that she does with ACE. And it's been almost a year, and we've had an episode where we've talked about this. So there you go. Carrie is so many things. I don't have all the time in the world. It would take up the entire episode and more to share more about you, Carrie, but all of that to say you're a person living with RA. You're also a whole person, meaning you have all these other incredible things going on in your life. You've overcome, obstacles, as do we all, in our journey in life and with disease. And we're here to talk specifically with you about RA treatment decision making. And when I say treatment, I do mean forms of non-medication and medication treatment, but we're going to focus a little bit more on medication treatment because that's the type of treatment that most people have difficulty with. If they have difficulty deciding whether to get physiotherapy or not, it's mostly because they don't have reimbursement for it, but it's not because they don't want to. When we talk about medication treatments, it's a whole other conversation, and that's the one we want to have with you today. So thank you so much again for taking time out of your busy day and joining us.
Oh, my pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So let's start with a very basic question. You have rheumatoid arthritis, Carrie. How long have you had it? And what was that early going like for you?
I actually, when you asked me that question, I realized it'll be 15 years this summer.
That gives you veteran status.
Oh, not an old car classic or
No, no,
something?
not a classic yet, but you're a
Okay,
veteran
all
for
right.
sure.
A veteran?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So it was this summer. This summer it'll be 15 years. And long story short, I just thought my swollen joints were due to, like, we had just moved and had bought a new house and it was crazy. And I was running a lot just to like burn cortisol. Like there was a
Yeah.
lot going on. Young kids, new house, new job, new everything. And so I was just like trying to deal with all this stress. And so I just thought mostly ankles was the first like really noticeable. Anyway, long story short, didn't go away. Really struggled to get a diagnosis because I didn't have a family doctor. So that whole process was difficult in and of itself. And then um yeah, and then I ended up getting connected through a coworker actually. She had a friend who's a nurse practitioner and said, hey, can you just see Carrie, even just to write some sort of referral to get her started to internal medicine or something.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how the process went for me. It
Yeah.
was happened really fast. Like within 3 months, it went from like full functioning to almost no functioning, as I'm
Right.
sure some other people have experienced. But yeah, it's crazy times, crazy,
Yeah,
crazy times.
yeah.
So yeah, that was 15 years ago. I can't believe that.
It's
Anyway,
funny, we don't, it's so overwhelming in part because it's so unexpected. You're young, usually. Rheumatoid arthritis is sort of that sweet spot is 20, 25 to sort of 50, 55. You're either a young adult. I mean, the last thing you think you might have is anything with the word arthritis in it.
yeah,
And because of the misconception, the myths surrounding the word arthritis, that it only happens to older people, we glom onto that and then don't really think about the possibility that might be happening to us.
yeah, to young, healthy adults,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I
Or
would, that
people
was
in the prime
almost,
of people in the prime of life, 40, 45, 50. Yeah,
yeah,
it's just kind
yeah.
of the last thing you might think of. So if some of those things, audience, that you heard Carrie talk about sound familiar, keep listening. So you got your way into a rheumatologist,
Mhm.
and there began your life really with RA.
Yeah.
Not that life becomes RA, but it becomes certainly a part of your life, as you and I have both learned very well. Um, when you think about treatment, so there's a whole process to learning about your disease. When you first
Mhm.
get into the medical system, they start doing tests. That's when our learning journey starts, even before our diagnosis. But we're going to kind of try to fast forward a bit, Carrie, and just winnow in on a really specific part of decision making as a person that you have to go through in order to turn the corner, in order to take back control or some control of your life. You can't control everything about RA, but there are a lot of things that you can control. And decision making around what treatment you consider and which one you decide on, um, and how it fits into the context of your life is a very, very important one. So when you think back 15 years ago, um, kind of how did that come to you? How did you start that process? I assume that the rheumatologist who ran lab tests to confirm a diagnosis is confirmed really based on physical exam. It is still one of the few diseases where there aren't any definitive lab tests. You have inflammation tests, you've got rheumatoid factor tests, but they don't diagnose.
No, and in fact, I was seronegative, so that
Yeah,
wasn't even helpful.
exactly. So you
Yeah.
can, half the population at some point gets a seronegative or rheumatoid factor test,
Yeah.
but may be positive as well. So knowing that it's the skill of the physician, you get kind of going towards a diagnosis. When you get the diagnosis, talk us through that. Did you learn kind of quickly on that you needed to go on treatment, medication treatment specifically?
Yeah, and I think there's a lot that happens emotionally in that moment
Yeah,
where you've had this buildup of uncertainty and you become like you're quite afraid of what is happening. Like you've got this sense of what is going on in my life? Like
loss of
what is happening?
control, like classic
Loss of
loss of
self-control,
control.
complete
Yeah.
loss of self-control. And then you're handed this diagnosis and you're like, oh, thank goodness. I've got a poof, we got a plan, there's a decision, a direction, we've got, things we're gonna do. And then you're like, hold on a minute. This is a chronic illness. Like, so you're the sense of relief is like at this like this, but then all of a sudden you're like, wait, what? So there's all of that happening. And then, oh, and so we're going to inject both your wrists. And this is going to be your medication now. And you're going to inject it. You're not going to take it orally. And you're going to do B12, like so many days before. And you've got folic acid to take. And you're like, excuse me, just gonna need to sit down for a minute here. Like, what's going on? So it's so overwhelming in all of the sense, every end of the spectrum, some great relief and there's okay, I've got some autonomy. I can do this. I can schedule this. I can do this. I can, there's some
I
autonomy
could
there.
pick the day, like even a
I could
victory
pick
is
the
picking
day.
the day you take it, right?
Yeah, you pick the
Yeah.
day and all of that, but then you're like, wait a minute, I don't really want to do this. So there's,
Yeah.
that tension that really, really happens there. And the incredible thing that happened to me, and I know that I'm very fortunate to have had this experience, is that there was actually a team that was part of the decision making. So there was an occupational therapist, a rheumatologist, a pharmacist, a social worker, and a nurse who all were like together on the decision. And even there would even be a couple of them in the same room at the
Yeah.
same time discussing doses and treatment plans and all of this. And as I was sitting there, I got thinking, like, there's this team and they all want what I want. They want a good outcome. They want that for me. And so I think I can trust this. Like I didn't want to do it. Like I wanted relief, but I didn't want to do that to get it. I didn't want to, you know, being in healthcare, I knew the medications that they were suggesting that I take, and I thought, oh my gosh, like I know what this means. I know how I'm going to feel. I know what kind of side effects. I understand the long-term implications. I I do not want to do this. But then on the other side, I saw this team approach and I felt confident in that. So I felt confident in them and I felt like I could trust them in in how they were coming to the decision, like for the type of medication and the dose and all of that.
Yeah.
And so you just have to, I just decided, well, I gotta try it. I gotta do it.
Yeah, because
So
the alternative is no life. The
yeah, the
alternative
alternative
is
is
I
like
can't care for my family. I can't care for myself. I can't keep
can't
working.
work.
I can't go for
Yeah,
a run. I can't. The loss, the
yeah,
losses over time mount up until what you cumulatively end up with is not a very robust life.
that's right.
Yeah.
But it is a decision. Like it's not just something you just accept and allow to happen to you.
Yeah.
Like it's an active decision that you make. And then I think for me too, choosing to commit to that decision and really focus on being really meticulous about timing of medications,
Yeah.
following up with blood work, like all of those things that they asked me to do. I thought, well, if I'm going to try this, I'm really going to try it.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to do it, being meticulous, I think, is the way to do it because you give yourself the best chance. Not everyone
Mhm.
responds to,
No.
to the medications they're prescribed and may have to go through what we call in medicine a trial and error process.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
to give each therapy a great shot, doing as you've just suggested, taking it at the same time, thinking positively about actually taking it makes a difference in terms of patient
Yeah.
outcomes. When you describe this team approach, Carrie, for the benefit of our audience, many people out in our audience don't enjoy that. And it's one of the reasons why ACE is such a strong advocate for what we call models of care for rheumatoid arthritis. We have this publicly funded healthcare system, and our expectation of that healthcare system is that it be robust no matter what it is we have been diagnosed with, and that there is a way, a method of getting us the care when, where, and at the cost we can afford. And that, sadly, it remains not the case for a lot of patients, province to province. And in a universal healthcare system, you're supposed to have portability. So in other words, the type of model of care that you really enjoy there in your province is not going to be maybe even accessible if you moved out of that region in your own province.
Right.
Even if you
Right.
move to the next city, may not be the same.
Mhm.
Uh, so what you've described is really the gold standard. And you're very lucky, and I know you know that, to be
Yeah.
situated in that kind of treatment environment. That doesn't mean you can't get good treatment in other parts of the country without it. It means we as individuals need to do more work, frankly, in order to build that model ourselves. to knit together, even if they're not all going to be in one room, that when you're actively seeing the rheumatologist, you say, make sure that that file, make sure this visit and the notes from the visit get to my family doctor, which they usually do, but I actually say it out loud. I
That's
want them
right.
to know I know what I should get in the healthcare system, and it really shows them that I'm super interested in getting better too. So that's just a little tangent there, but related to your situation, which is being in a model of care that offers you the support around therapy or treatment, medication treatment, decision making. Super, super important. If you're comfortable sharing, Carrie, what treatment are you on?
I'm currently taking methotrexate,
Okay,
and I'm actually currently switching from injectable to the tablet form,
okay,
be, because I'm planning a big year-long trip, and having injectables is not a great way to travel,
yeah,
like for long term. Like that just I travel with my injectables like all the time, but
yeah,
only for a week or two at a time,
yeah,
not for
a
6
year.
months or a
Yeah,
year.
yeah,
Much more portable to take with me. So that's actually been an interesting transition as well. So I've had a few things. I've got an appointment coming up in June. I think we have some things to talk about. But yeah, no, so that's what I'm taking now. And then I take naproxen from time to time if I,
which is an anti-inflammatory. Yeah.
right.
Yeah. So your disease is well controlled. You were diagnosed and you began medication treatment early. So there's something now we know called the window of opportunity, Carrie. And when you were diagnosed, it sounds like you went through that window of opportunity pretty quickly.
Mhm.
A lot of people who don't have that kind of multidisciplinary, multi-professional support that you had, that team approach, which sounds like it really helped you move through decision making fairly quickly, but also in a satisfactory way to you as the patient, as the quarterback of the decision making team. A lot of people don't have that, and they turn around, they're handed a script after the first visit, a prescription. Usually it's for methotrexate, possibly for an anti-inflammatory. And they go home and they complain to their family that, well, that doctor's just a pill pusher. All they want me to do is, they're doing it because of that window of opportunity. They know that if one can get the disease under control, or the disease can be controlled rather, through medication therapy very early on after diagnosis, the chance of that disease having minimal impact on your life is quite a bit greater. So
Mhm.
that's the goal. So I'm kind of, I know you know this, but I'm telling our audience, this is not a pill pushing community, actually, rheumatology writ large. They're a community that understands the science and understands that their best chance of helping someone with active, disease that they can see is not going to go away. It's an autoimmune disease that will not shut itself off. There are a few types where it can go away, but it's few and far between. So that is why people are handed that script. And when you don't understand the why, and a lot of times, sadly, rheumatologists aren't spending enough time just telling them why it is they're getting a script that first visit. So we're telling you this so that if the case your rheumatologist doesn't, you'll know why. They really want the best for you, and that's why you're being given that script. So we know what you're on. Tell us what motivates you. Like, I often find when I'm talking to people with RA, which I do every day, they really are, it's so fascinating how different we are as patients, and what motivates us to continue taking our medication. We are bombarded, we go to, parties or barbecues with our friends, or out for walks or bike rides, and, we're chatting about things, and, maybe our medication taking comes up and they say indignantly, oh, I don't even take Tylenol. Like, I won't even take a headache pill, proudly stating they won't take medicine, which is really deflating to someone like us. So,
Yeah.
um, I find that such it's a big Debbie Downer, if you will. And really affects people's willingness to continue on. Like it's those external things that often come at us that we're not ready for. You don't even have to respond to that, really.
No.
Just let it go and know that what you're doing, hopefully you're seeing a benefit. But how do you do it? How do you stay committed to what it is you're doing on the medication front? I mean, I'm assuming one, they're working and you
Yes.
want to continue. Yeah.
Well, aside from the fact that I just feel like I've got so much more life to live and I'm doing well right now, like I want to keep living, I want to keep being active and keep my function higher. I want to be able to provide for my family, be a part of my community, all of those things. We did try drug-free remission, which was another big decision making
Yeah.
process that actually I had almost no input from my medical community, but I asked my friends and my husband, should I do this? Like it was a really big decision because thinking about going back to the loss of function I had originally, like that's always a possibility, right? So I did give it a go and it didn't work. And within a few months I could tell there was some active disease again. And so I think that if I hadn't done that, I might maybe toy with like, should I, shouldn't I? How consistent do I need to be? It's been 15 years. Maybe I can be a little bit more lax about how like every Wednesday at or whatever. And so having that experience being like, oh no, my body's out to destroy me. No, we gotta we gotta fight this back. We gotta like, you know. So
Show it
so
who's boss again.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think knowing that has kept me very committed to, keeping up with all of the things that, like all of my, like checking my joints and being consistent and blood work and all of those things.
Success
And
breeds success, in other words.
yeah, yeah, I think so. And um, yeah, I don't know. I think part of it is just Um, I think I developed enough self-worth and self-respect that I think I'm worth it. I think I'm worth the effort to do that. And that feels good to be able to say, yeah, you know. So I think, and I want that for everybody to say, like, it takes effort, it takes planning, it takes intention, it takes all of those things. But I think each and every one of all of you and you, I think we're worth it. I think we're worth that effort, asking questions and staying on top of things. I think that's important.
Yeah, it's beautifully said, Carrie. When you think about all the decisions you've made so far, over the past 15 years, specifically as it relates to medication decision making, is there anything you change, do over, do again? Like, what would you do if you were diagnosed today? What would you do differently from what you did 15 years ago? If anything, it may not be anything.
I don't know. Uh, I think the things that maybe I don't know if there's anything specific, but I think that I've learned a lot about myself through the process, and those things I wouldn't want to give up. So you know how the hardships can really make you stronger, all those certain things, and help you to know yourself better. I think those things have been really important. Um, I think it's been important to me to like you have to put a lot of trust in your physician. You have to put a lot of trust even in the medication that it's like that, this syringe filled with yellow stuff where you're jabbing into yourself. Like this, that's the whole thing. And like that, like you play a lot of games with yourself emotionally. And I've learned a lot about myself through that. So
Yeah, thinking of your medicine as your friend, not your enemy, is certainly helpful. And I really like to take the opportunity to underscore the piece about trust in the physician as well, making certain that you have all the answers that you need when taking a decision,
mm,
is so very important. And we grew up in school our whole youths, and you heard from your teachers, no question is a dumb question. And it's so true when it comes to medications. There is no dumb
Absolutely.
question, there is no silly question. Every question about medication taking is valid as long as it's your question, right?
Yeah.
If it's your
Yeah.
question, it's a valid question and you deserve an answer. And if you can't get one from your rheumatologist, you can certainly get one from Arthritis Consumer Experts. We're here to help you have that conversation and have a lot of tools on our website that enable people to have a better conversation with their care team, whether it's their rheumatologist or their occupational therapist or whatever. As we wrap up this episode, Carrie, when you think about your medication treatment, that kind of decision-making process that you went through, and it's going to be different for everyone. Folks have many, a million different contexts in which to make decisions and to take decisions. But if you had any sort of pearls of wisdom for our viewers, what would they be?
I wrote these down actually.
Oh, I
Right.
love it.
I think we've talked about a couple of them. Be consistent and follow through. I think those are pretty good tools to have in your tool belt. And I think the biggest one is just don't do this alone. Like, bring people around you who love and care about you and walk this journey. Let them walk with you in this. And because there's going to be times where you're feeling like you don't really want to keep doing this, or you have a lot of questions, or you're uncertain, or you're not feeling great, or you just can't, you just can't that day. But you need those people to support you through this. And they don't have to know anything about RA. They don't have to know anything about the drugs you take. It's more
They
about
just have to
knowing
love you as a human being.
that's it.
Yeah.
That's just it. Yep. And I think that that is probably the key to really being actually successful. I think that is the key to success, not just the medication and the therapies and the all of that, but like doing this as a community and feeling supported. I think that's really big.
That's the center pearl.
That's the center pearl.
In the necklace, yeah, or
Yeah.
in the tiara, whatever. The only thing I would add to that is there are folks out there who are going to have people in their, let's call it the inner circle, who don't view medication taking in the same way that you do. That doesn't mean they can't be supportive of you in the decision-making process you're going through. There are people out there who, don't believe anyone should take medicine. Um, and that's fine if that's their own belief. Um, but you're making decisions in the context of the reality of rheumatoid arthritis or
Right.
ankylosing spondylitis or lupus. And that person isn't living through what you're living through. And
Hmm.
it's your weighing of pros and cons of what the medication is supposed to do, um, and then making a decision to do it or not. So it's quite amazing, Carrie. I know how terrific your support system is, and I know you probably encounter people in your life who may not agree with some of the decisions you've taken, but they haven't been haters about it, and I think
No.
that's really an important piece. And to the degree that you're comfortable sharing with your support team, even those that aren't big believers, as long as they're there and loving you and letting you get there in your own way, is all good. It all ends up, I think, in a positive place. I just want to thank you so much again for sharing your own experience, Carrie, with the audience. I was thinking about your classic car. I'm a collector. I've had it for that long. I've had rheumatoid arthritis now for almost 35 years. And I just want to end by saying to our audience, those people who are living with an autoimmune form of disease, there are all different types of people, and disease does different things in different people. We're all snowflakes, really. There are general experiences, I think, that are the same across disease types and across individuals living with disease types. But we wanted to put this episode out, this conversation with you, Carrie, to really just underscore how important it is to initiate treatment early. It's hard to hear. I didn't want to do it. Like you, I took a drug holiday and I reversed my holiday quite quickly because a very aggressive disease and just knew that I couldn't do it, but I wanted to try. I talked about it with my team, had, their support to do it. And they said, but these are the things we're gonna look for. And if we see some of them, one or two of them, we're gonna change course. I said, okay, okay. So I made a deal with them. Um, and it's all of this stuff, it's all of this experience that you've shared and that so many in our community can share online that really helps support people going through it for early, who
Yeah.
are just getting this news. And if that's you, or if you know someone that is experiencing things like Carrie's spoken about, or even myself, please don't hesitate to reach out to us at feedback@jointhealth.org. We'd love to support you. There's lots of good resources following this video at the end, so we encourage you to go visit them. And again, Carrie, we can't thank you enough for joining us. We can't thank our audience enough for tuning in, and we wish you well and hope you have a great rest of the week.
Great. Thank you so much. See you
Yeah,
again.
let me pull my trick again. This is for all of you.
So cool.
I'm wearing my peace sweater too.
Yeah.
It's all about spring.
Uh-huh.
Okay, thanks everyone for tuning
Okay.
in, Carrie. Mwah. We'll see you guys soon. Bye bye.